So, sitting here in the Nashville airport, getting ready to board a plane. Of course, I got here way early. Yeah, 4:29 in the morning. Flight doesn't leave till 7:30. So I'm going to get here plenty early, so here I am. And actually, I had my wife drive me down and try and avoid the rush hour traffic. So, anyway, I'll update you some more as we go.
Hey there, it's Kelly Finkler here. Welcome to Nashville, home of the CMA News Festival. Thank you so much for choosing Nashville International Airport.
Welcome aboard American Airlines.
Hey.
Please place your carry-on items in an overhead compartment or...
Alright, there we go. That's flight number 2. Flight number 1 was really uncomfortable. Spent my knees crunched in the back of the guy in front of me.
No, 12 o'clock p.m., right? So p.m. is...
How's it going, folks? Decided to do this a little different tonight because recorded some video coming home. Took a little trip to West Palm Beach, Florida to get my wife's '04 Escalade that I bought her. She liked mine, got to liking it a lot, drove it a couple times and decided she wanted one. So I loaded up and went and took her, I got her oh, that doesn't help any. Got her one of her own. And I'll put a picture of it right here. It's now I paid a little over $11,000 for mine. It's a '06 and it had 157,000 miles on it. Most of these you can't find for less than 10 grand if they're under 200,000 miles on them. Some of them I've seen with over 220, 240,000 miles. They still wanted 10 grand for them. Now, I don't think they're that special that I'd pay that kind of money for one with that high of miles on it. But these things go forever. I mean, no kidding. They're that kind of a vehicle that, as long as you keep them tuned up and keep all your fluids and filters and everything changed like you're supposed to, they run forever. And hers actually has a few thousand less miles on it than mine does. Of course, I drove mine clear up to New York to get the side fixed, and of course you guys have already seen that video. That was back in November. But I got the side fixed. I got it repainted and drove it all the way back home to Niagara Falls and all the way down around the Great Lakes or Lake Erie, I guess it was. I circled over half of Lake Erie coming home. Anyway, I found this one we'd been looking for a while. Found this one on cargurus.com, and they wanted, I think, $49.99, I think is what it was. No, it was like around 5,000 anyway, a little over 5,000. And I happened to go to the dealer's actual website and found it cheaper. It was like $200 cheaper than what it was on the Car Guru site. And I'm like, okay, well, let's pick their brain and see if they're willing to honor their on-site ad. Called them up, spoke with a nice lady there, and she told me, yeah, that's actually what they're going to sell it for. So I tried to get them to hold it because I had some money coming, and I had a credit card that I could max out, and some other money stashed aside that I could kind of pull together and have enough to at least pay most of the price of the vehicle. So I got on with their sales guy, went on with their sales manager first, and of course he tells me, well, I'm not going to hold it. If you're not going to buy it, it'll sit here until somebody buys it. And he's sitting there telling me, oh, we've got people calling right and left for this thing, and I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, okay, this is salesman 101, common bullcrap. Make it more desirable by making them think a bunch of other people want it. And of course I wasn't biting, but then I got to talking to my wife, and she's like, well, how long did they say they would hold it for? I said, well, they didn't. I asked them, and they weren't wanting to hold it at all. The more I got to thinking about it, the more I'm like, well, we've looked long and hard to find one of these stupid things, and there's no way that I'm just going to let it slip through my fingers at the price that it's at. Of course, in the back of my mind, I've got this thing steaming up saying, just eating away at me like, yeah, they just pitched you and you're buying it. And you're going to go spend all this money and maybe get halfway home and break down. It was a genuine consideration. But I just got a urge of confidence in my decision and called the guy up. Paid the whole thing off except for their dock fee that I had to pay once I got there. And told them I'll be down Friday. Got online, got me a plane ticket, 2 plane tickets actually, and left out of Nashville at 4 o'clock in the morning. You'll have seen the clips from that already. Got on the plane, and of course, I'm 6'5", and I guess that I'm longer from my knees to my hips than most people. Now, I know I'm fatter because I just did fit in the seat, but I couldn't sit in the seat. My knees were up against the back of the seat in front of me, and my hips were up on the back of the seat. I couldn't even sit flat in the seat. The first flight, there was a emergency row seat 2 rows back that was open the whole time. If I could have sat there, I would have been perfectly fine. Stewardess comes by and I ask her, that seat right there is open and I'm having trouble sitting in this seat. I said, my legs are in the back of the seat and the guy in front of me, I know he's not comfortable. He's not able to tilt his seat back at all. Is there any way possible I could just move back to that open seat to where I'm not interfering with anybody else's space? No. And kept right on going. I'm like, really? There's nobody in that seat. So she just, no, and went on. Just ugly as she wants to be. This is American Airlines, by the way. I'm going to call them out because they kind of ticked me off with that. Then the same same company did the flight for, I went from Nashville to Charlotte, and then I had another flight from Charlotte to West Palm Beach. Same company, different plane, of course. Get on the second plane, and both times, I don't know how, both times I got stuck in a middle seat. First time was in row 13, right near the exit, and the second time was in row 11. Dead middle, both times. Well, I sat down, and I'm getting all fastened in. I'm trying to find a way to sit down comfortably in this seat that my knees just don't fit in. And this little frail woman comes in and sits down beside me. I say frail, but she was a total biddy. Now I'm not talking about old. I'm talking about she was just not very nice and not very friendly. And she come in and sat down and had opened up her iPad and was playing Words with Friends. And I was like, oh, I hate that game. She says, why? I said, because it doesn't let you use a whole lot of real words. That's all I said to this woman. I said, the game's fun. They need to put more words in it to where it's a little more fun. I mean, you're making up these simple, nonsensical things that aren't even really words, and they give you points for it. Well, she got all bent out of shape about that, I guess, and just put her iPad up. I wasn't trying to insult her or say that she was dumb for playing it. I just didn't enjoy it myself because of the way the game works. It's just a crap game. I'm opening up Words with Friends thinking this is like Scrabble on your phone or on your computer or whatever, and that's not it at all. If it was more like Scrabble, I think I'd have had a lot more fun with it. But anyway, she gets all huffy and puts it up. And of course, I'm sitting in this seat. And as wide as I am, I'm boiling over on the armrests. I bumped this woman one time because I was trying to pull away from the guy that was sitting next to me. He was trying to adjust himself in his seat, so I leaned over and, well, how in the heck is that? Anyway, he leaned over, so I moved to let him adjust and reset himself in the seat, and I bumped this woman's shoulder. She immediately turns around and says, that's not fair. So, excuse me? She says, that's not fair. I paid for this seat. I said, yeah, and I paid for mine. What's the matter? Well, you can't be all over my seat and yours too. So she stopped the stewardess coming back the aisle and said, I can't sit here next to him. And the stewardess looked at me and I'm like, I don't know. I have no clue. And we were already out on the runway taxiing. So the stewardess just walked by and kind of left it be for a little bit and went onto the back of the plane to take care of the people back there that she was having to take care of. And then came back up front, and we're about ready to take off. I mean, we're like next in line to leave the ground. And she says, real quickly, anybody right here in this immediate area, is there any of you that are willing to switch seats with this woman? Kind of silence at first, and then this old man speaks up and says, I will. Of course, he's in the middle row seat. And so everybody gets up in his row. He comes out. She goes in. He sits down next to me. And I told him, I was like, I'm sorry about this. I said, but she didn't like the idea of me sitting here as big as I am and occasionally bumping into her. He says, well, that's fine. It's okay. It's no problem. Just as good as gold. And I really wished I'd have got the man's name so I could have used it, but I didn't. Anyway, he sits down and he's pulling out his little Kindle and reading his book on whatever, his e-reader. And the guy on the other side of me is over here with his little tablet doing up like documents or something for his work. It turns out they were both lawyers. And about halfway through the flight, I'm sitting here squirming, and I, honest to God, was trying my hardest to stay off of both of them. I'm sitting here like this with my arms crossed. And this wasn't as uncomfortable as my knees being in the back of the seat and my hips grinding into the back of my seat. And I just kept trying to adjust to where I was leaning heavier on one side than the other, and then I'd switch again. And after about an hour of me doing that in that seat, the old man looks over at me and he says, you want to switch with me so you can kind of put your feet out in the aisle over here and stretch out a little bit? I said, well, I don't want to put you out. He says, it's not putting me out. I was like, would you please? He said, yeah. And I got up. He got out in the aisle. I got up and walked out there. He took my seat. I sat down the aisle, and finally, at least one of my hips can hang out into the aisle a little bit. The stewardess saw, the one that had arranged him sitting there, saw what was going on, and she came back by and she says, okay, now I don't mind you doing this. I don't mind you sitting here, but when we come by with the drink cart, could you kind of tuck it in a little bit? And I said, yeah, no problem. None whatsoever. She comes by with that cart. Sure enough, I'm back in the uncomfortable position, but I didn't care because I knew as soon as that cart went one way, I could stretch out a little bit again. I wasn't hurting as bad. Came back by, tucked it in again, and she's like, you know, the armrest for that seat can flip up to where you're just sitting in the seat. I'm like, oh, okay. So I pulled the armrest up, and I almost was sitting sideways in the aisle, almost with my back to the guy that had done all this to switch seats with us and everything and make everybody a little more comfortable. Closer to the end of the flight, the stewardess comes back with this, I call her stewardess, the flight attendant comes back with a notepad and said, do you have one of our American Advantage accounts? And he's like, no, ma'am. She said, well, can you give me your email? Because I want to make sure you get something, because that was just really sweet of you to switch seats like that and not raise Cain or anything, or not question it any more than you did. And I told him, I was like, yeah, it really was, and I really appreciate it. And of course, I told her thanks as soon as she walked off. I pulled her aside. I said, thank you very much. I said, you have no idea how uncomfortable that seat was for me. I said, not this way, this way. I said, of course, if I eat much more, this way is not going to fit me either. But she was understanding. She says, no, that's perfectly all right. We deal with this kind of stuff all the time. I was like, yeah, but you handled it really well. That was really nice of you. And when I got ready to get off the plane, I shook his hand and told him thank you again. Made sure he knew how much I appreciated it. And the other guy in the far window seat for me just bumping all over him too. And on my way out, she was standing next to the captain at the bulkhead. And I told her, I was like, honestly, thank you again. I was like, because that could have got really embarrassing. We could have got into a shouting match, God only knows what. And I said, and the way it was handled was just perfect. Went off without a hitch. She got her seat to herself and nobody bothering her. And I said, I got to meet somebody that was rather nice and know that there are still good people in the world. I said, both you and him. And she said, well, thank you. And I was like, okay. Got off the plane, called up the dealership. Thought you were going to have somebody here to meet me. He says, he should be there. I'm like, all right, what's he in? A red Chevy truck. No problem. Hung up the phone. I couldn't have waited maybe 10 minutes, and he comes rolling into the pickup in the airport there. And I thought the Nashville airport was busy. West Palm Beach Airport, as small as it was, made Nashville look like small potatoes. I mean, and because it had twice as many lanes. And anyway, I sat there for a good 10 minutes watching, and lo and behold, I see red. And I mean, of course, every time I seen red, even if it was burgundy, I'm looking to see if that's it. And all of a sudden, I see this four-door 2017 Chevrolet truck coming with the Belglade Chevrolet emblem on it, and plastered on the passenger side doors got my name in big bold letters on a sheet of paper that they printed out. So I ran over, got in it, and we hauled it out of the airport, stopped off and got me a Monster so I'd be awake enough to understand what the guy was telling me when I'm finishing up the deal and signing all the papers. Get out to the dealership, and of course, this kid that was driving, he didn't give a dang. That 2017 truck kind of impressed me a little bit, because between the airport and the dealership is this like 20 or 30 mile long road, and it's nothing, literally nothing out there but farmland. I mean, just farm field after farm field. And because it's the farm property, they've got the trucks that come out to pick up the grain and stuff like that and take it to the silos and all, take it to market. And he's just booking it down this road. And when I say booking it, I don't mean he's just scooting along like 60, 70 miles an hour. He tells me, oh, there's never any cops on this road. Really? Nope. He said, it's a really long road back to the dealership. Didn't seem like it. Because he's sitting there flying along. Of course, this truck's just gliding, just bouncing. And the guy was good as gold. I mean, I had a ball with him the whole time, the whole way back to the dealership. And it's just bouncing. It feels like it's just floating. I look over, this sucker's doing 142 miles an hour. Whoa. I'm just kind of sat back in my seat a little bit. He says, oh, yeah, I better slow down a little bit. His idea was slowing down to 128. And I'm looking at the speedometer thinking, no, that's not slowing down. And of course, he came up on some trucks and stuff and actually slowed down to 108 to go around all these trucks. I'm like, this guy's just nuts. Didn't matter. He got around them trucks and just hammered on it again. Got back to the dealership and pulled in. As soon as we pulled in, he pulled right up to the front. Right there her truck was sitting all cleaned up and ready to go. Like, wow. I'll put a picture right here. I went inside, did all the paperwork, jumped in the truck. Of course, it was dead empty. And I mean, I was freaking out still because I hadn't driven this truck. I'd seen it, I'd heard it run. They sent me video of it running and starting up. I got to see that there was no smoke blowing out the tailpipe, and it seemed to run just like this one does, so I was pretty confident it'd probably make it back all right. And I asked the sales manager while I'm filling out the paperwork, I said, do you know of any issue? I said, I'm not backing out of this, but do you know of any issue that this truck might have that would keep me from making it back to Tennessee with it? He said, no. He said, it's a good running truck. It's straight. Okay. So, finished up the paperwork, got in the truck, and now mind you, this is a very long road from the dealership back out to West Palm Beach. I'm on E, like the low side of E. So I'm freaking out. They didn't tell me where to go for gas or anything else. And of course, because they're out in Belle Glade, Florida, and it's out away from everything, I'm just putting it down the street trying to find a gas station. Finally found one, and I wasn't taking any chances. I filled that truck up. Of course, the first fill up I did, because the price of gas was as high as it was down there from them being out in the boonies, the first fill up, she just got regular gas in it. And I drove from that dealership back down through town, past the dealership again, out the long road, back out towards the interstate. I was trying to go 95 and then 10 and then up 75 to 24 to Nashville to home. That was my whole path. I had it memorized. I knew where I needed to go. Didn't have to rely on GPS to run me down farm trails or whatever else like it did before. So I'm making my way back out to I-95, and of course, now the reason, like I said, that I put regular gas in it is the gas down there was $3.20 a gallon for regular. So she got regular, and as I got up into Tennessee, where did I stop? I stopped once after I got on I-95 to grab me a sandwich, and then clipped it on up to I-10, went across I-10 up to 75. Oh, stopped in Georgia, Warner Robins, where I'm from. And I'd only used a half a tank. Went the whole way through Florida and halfway through Georgia on a half a tank of gas. I'm like, okay. Went to Walmart and got seafoam in a bottle. Got 2 of them for her truck, 2 of them for mine, because I hadn't run any through mine in a while either. And of course, you only put it in with a full tank of gas, so I dumped one in hers, the full can in hers, and then topped it off with super, because it wasn't that bad there. It was like $2.72 a gallon for the super, and so she got the 93 then, and then I hopped on the road, headed back home. And of course, this is like 2:30 in the morning that I made it to Warner Robins. It wasn't like I just drove up there in like 3 or 4 hours. This was several hours into the trip. Plus, I kept having to stop because I hadn't slept since I slept 2 hours before I left. Showed up at the airport with 2 hours of sleep, which most days is enough. But then I'm not running, not paying really close attention to a whole lot of stuff other than my job usually. And that kind of stuff, it's kind of repetitious. It's a lot of the same stuff, so I know how to kind of work my way through most of that without just going to sleep on people. But when you're in something that's completely different and new to you or unfamiliar, it's a little more stressful, a little more tiring. And between that and dealing with the flights and the people, and I hadn't ate the whole day. I mean, like I said, I stopped on the way home to get me a sandwich. That was the first time I'd eaten since like midday the day before, and I was starved. Anyway, went rolling up I-24 or I-75 to 24 in Chattanooga, and heading up the mountain there at Little Pittsburgh. I'm sitting there thinking, just any time now this truck's going to have a problem. Not a lick of problems. That thing drove just as smooth, and I wasn't rolling slow and low either. I was booking it 75, 85, 90 mile an hour depending, until it started raining, and of course then I backed off of it and drove normal. But every chance I got that it wasn't raining, I had it hammered down, and it did really good. Of course, the truck's got 20s on it. Mine's only got 17s, which that's fine. 17s do me just the way I need them to. I don't think she cares that they're 20s either, but they look okay. She's got a sunroof in hers. I don't. And then she's got a few less miles than mine does. And I paid half price for hers that I paid for mine. So like I said, I paid $11,000 for mine. And with the down payment and everything, it wound up being around almost 13. And we paid $6,100, I guess it was, for hers, with tax, tag, title, all of it right out the door. And so we've got two Escalades now, two Escalade EXTs, and both good vehicles. She's been driving hers every day, just happy as a peach. And of course, I don't drive mine all that often. I'm pretty much a homebody now, but occasionally I'll go out. But yeah, I mean, I had to do this video over again so that I could finish the video up, because I've got some of me driving, some of me sitting in the airport. But I did a couple of vlog spots coming home, because I had my other mount, my other Fat Gecko mount. And of course I put it up on her windshield and stuck the camera up on there and hit record and started talking. I did not realize how much sense I was not making. And I got to see real quick how on autopilot I really was, because I'm sitting there talking in the video and my eyes are just closing and closing. I don't remember trying to go to sleep. This is what was kind of scary, actually, for some people. It wasn't for me. I do it all the time. But I'm sitting there riding down the road, and I'm comfortable, relaxed, got the music going, it's up, I'm staying awake. Didn't really feel really tired at all. Just kind of wore down and ready to get home. And it wasn't until I got home and I start watching the video back, and I'm sitting there just dozing. Riding down the road, and I open my eyes and start talking, and then just doze off again. Open my eyes back up, start talking again, and completely different, jump from one subject to another. So none of that was usable, and that's the reason I'm doing this now, to kind of finish it out and get the story told. I don't usually do story time type videos, but this one's kind of needed to be told, because she wanted to, I'm sure she wanted something to tell her friends or show her friends. Of course, they've all seen the truck now, but I posted it on my Facebook and everything else. But we got a pretty good deal on it. I'm not ashamed of it at all. It's got a few more dings on it, and it's actually got a rust spot on the back passenger side wheel well. that needs to be fixed, and we'll get it fixed. I'm not going to let it just sit there and rust away here. So we'll get it ground down and get metal put back in place of the rust and get it painted back up for her. And she should be good to go. It's a nice colored truck. The interior is nicer than mine. Hers was actually, they had actually replaced all of the leather seat cushions with new leather. The back seat, I mean, they look brand new. Of course, somebody threw something in the back seat even after replacing them, and it gouged the driver's side rear seat a little bit, but it's not a big deal. But the whole rest of the back seat and both of the front seats look brand new. So I kind of like to do something like that with mine too, but those seat covers are kind of on the expensive side, and trying to find them in tan like mine is, that's a little bit hard to do too. Anyway, that's the long and short of it. It was a rather hard on me trip that I don't care to make again. If I ever have to get on a flight again, unless I can reserve the emergency row or the very front row, I'm not getting on them flights, because I'm not putting anybody else through that. That's just wrong. I mean, even if I lost weight, I still would not. I mean, I could lose weight down to skin and bones and still not fit in those seats right, because it's not my girth, my fat, that was keeping me from being able to sit in the seats. It's the length of my femur. So if I'm not able to sit in the emergency row or the front row, I'm not going on that flight. I'll just have to schedule another one somehow. And that might prove inconvenient at times, but it's one of those deals. It is what it is. I'm not getting my legs trimmed down, and they're not gonna make their seats any wider or any further apart. If anything, they'll scrunch them up more, because they gotta pinch that penny and get that almighty dollar. But yeah, I think I've had all the flying I'm gonna do for a nice long while now, unless somebody offers me to go on a private jet, which that's not happening either. But anyway, that's all I got for now. Hope you guys enjoyed it. My little plight, my little story. But I'll talk to you guys soon, and you have a good day. This is the curve I was talking about. These idiots are flying around at 90 miles an hour. It's a 55-mile-an-hour curve. There's even signs there. An oversized truck, choose the right lane. See, speed limit 55. I'm doing 60. Of course, this truck's got fairly decent tread on the tires that came on it, even though it's got the Silverado wheels on it, the Silverado 20s. They don't look bad on it. They're kind of scratched and scuffed, so on that count they do look bad, but they can be polished back up. Oh, we got a rock slide here. Nice. A lot of rock slide. Well, evidently they made it, so bully for them. Everything after this is all uphill, so it's not as dangerous as that 55-mile-an-hour curve back there. It is for these truck drivers, because as you see, they've all got to go up the hill slow. But once you get up the hill past Lynchburg, it's all pretty much flat until you get ready to go up the hill again to my house. I started this journey at 5:30 yesterday afternoon. stopped a few times to wake myself back up, get rejuvenated, caffeinated, that sort of thing. And it's 9:02 now. I'll probably make it home by 10:30, 11, somewhere in there. If I'd have just been able to drive straight through without having to keep stopping for rest breaks, I would have probably made it about 7:30, 8 o'clock. But I'm still going to make it before lunchtime. Such a hurry a minute ago. What happened to that? That's what I thought. This one's not nearly as violent as my truck is. You mash this one down, it just accelerates slowly. Mine, you stop that gas pedal down, that sucker just wants to jump right up off the ground and grab and go. This thing kind of eases into the lower gear. And this is about the last incline that we face. There's a couple small upgrades, but for the most part, this is the worst, not the worst of it back there. Now we're going to go on only highways with different speeds. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. I set this timer last night as I was leaving West Palm Beach, Florida. Solid 12 hours. Oh shoot, cop up here in the median. Solid 12 hours, almost 13. It'll be 15 or 17 by the time I get home, depending on traffic mostly.